Hello. I am Cassie Brown, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Amplify My Impact podcast. After years of consulting and managing programs for some of the top entrepreneurs, CEOs, and marketers in the industry, I am on a mission to expand our contribution, to grow, scale, and create more so we can do and give more. This podcast celebrates entrepreneurs who are boldly stepping up to own their calling, expand their influence, and stretch outside their comfort zone, who've decided to stop playing it small, pick up the mantle of contribution, and serve at a higher level to lead by example and light the way for others. If that's you, then get ready to amplify. There's a fire that burns inside your soul, and we're going to ignite it into a roaring blaze of unstoppable momentum. Hi everybody, Cassie Brown here. Welcome back to Amplify My Impact, and I am with one of the most incredible young women I have had the pleasure to know. Ayelet Shipley has a heart of gold and a mission to make an impact on her age group, on the world, and the niche, and taking on just the status quo of anxiety. And I could not be prouder of the strides that she has taken to step up and serve, not only at her age, but this is such a heavy topic and issue that a lot of people dance around. And she has met it full force, head on, in her podcast, Get Out of Bed, Get Out of Your Head. And she's launching a new support Facebook group that is just boldly declaring there is life beyond anxiety, and it's called Thrive Beyond Anxiety. I'm really, really excited because she's literally in the middle of launching it right now. And so I cannot wait for you to get to know her like I know her, and I'm sure probably even getting to hear more about her story and her background and her transition and being able to step up into this bold purpose that she was called to serve in, because it started out a different way, and it's taking on a lot more, I think, than you ever thought would be possible or that you would be capable of. And so she has some really cool assets to share with everybody. She has the Anxiety Secrets Toolbox, and we'll be sure to share all of her links, all of her connections, because the thing about it is, you or I, whoever's listening, you never know when someone in your life needs us. And I think that's the biggest message that Ayelet has to share, and not being afraid to be there, to step in and lean in for support, but also not being afraid to even share that you're living with this, that it's not something to be shut away or ashamed of. So with that, welcome. And we just can't wait to hear more about you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay. So I know I led that, and it's usually not very Southern and graceful to ask a woman her age, but I think it's very, very important, because I think what you're doing at your age, more people need to take stock and pay attention, and stop letting all certain excuses step in the way of them stepping into purpose, because once you've decided, you haven't let anything stop you. And I think a lot of people are letting something stop them, and it's really, really important.
Yes. So if that was how old I am 23 and a half.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it is young, and I just take it with stride that I think I'm blessed with the opportunity to be able to hear this calling, which we'll talk about in a little bit, at such a young age, and to know that this became my mission at 23, just turning 23.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of get started with the history of that mission. Let us just give us a little bit of background of how, like, before you decided to step into what was the foundation of this that sort of started, building you and molding you into this person that you are today?
Yeah. So my background is, I had a pretty normal childhood growing up. 2 amazing parents, a sister. And when I was about 13, I'd say, I started experiencing a ton of anxiety. And this wasn't, so about 10 years ago, it still wasn't really a talked about thing. So we didn't really define it. So my mom is a therapist. I think that's really important to know. And we knew I was like a pretty anxious person, but we didn't really do anything because it manifested itself in other ways. Like eating and just being really weird about timing and all this stuff, but doesn't matter. And then at about 15, I had my first major depressive episode, where I stayed in bed for 2 weeks and I refused to go to school. And I had a really normal growing up. Like I loved school. Like I loved my high school. I had a ton of friends. I lived my best life. Like, went to dance class every day. I was on my competitive dance team, and this like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had severe depression. And it cycled, and my mom noticed immediately and was trying to like help me through it and everything because she is a therapist. My whole family are therapists. And from the time that I was 13 and 15, going through all of this, I'd always known that I wanted to help people. Not necessarily with anxiety. At this point, I was focused on, at 13 years old, I was like, my mission is to become a therapist. Straightforward as it was. Focusing on people with different mental health disparities as well as kids with special needs. So every summer I would volunteer at a therapeutic horseback riding ranch for kids with special needs, and my mission stayed the same. And I went to college. I went to undergraduate for psychology, and then I knew my path was to go to graduate school for social work, and I was going to become a therapist from that. And that has been my journey until the age of 23. From 13 to 23, I knew it in my heart, a therapist, helping people one-on-one. You are told in your life, like, this is what you do. You just want to help people one-on-one. This is the traditional path. So I didn't really take into account anything that I had been experiencing. Like I knew what I had experienced and the hardships of being in severe depression and anxiety and cycles of it. But my mission was always just to help. So that's my background of how it got started and everything.
That's incredible. Just the level of self-awareness that you had at that age, and realizing, that you could help, that you can serve in that capacity. And that alone in itself is admirable. Was that the only episode that you had at 13? Like, or did you figure it out, like how to self-manage, or what kind of happened from that?
Yeah. So we were really confused on what caused my depression because it seemed to come out of nowhere. We thought it was hormonal. We thought it was this. Like, so I had an episode when I was 15, an episode when I was 17, when I was 18. And then it started to go every 6 months of just every 6 months to a year. It would just be a depressive episode for 2 weeks. And we had no idea why this was happening. And over the course of time, I started seeing the right doctors, and I did go to therapy eventually. That took a really long time for me to actually go to a regular therapist. But I had seen a psychiatrist and was put on antidepressants, which minimized the amount of depressive episodes I had, but definitely didn't get to the core. And I think what I ended up being able to manage it from really going to therapy, as well as having my whole family as support, and talking to my mom a lot because she is a therapist and knows the ways to help, and going to school for psychology and social work opened my eyes to ways that I can help myself as well as get through it. So that's really, it was cycles, and it was years and years of this.
Yeah. And I want to touch on something that you shared, because I think a lot of people, no matter where they're at, no matter where they fall in, where, oh my gosh, Ayelet, yes, I've experienced that. I understand what you mean by cycles. Or if they're familiar with, with my background and the things that life can throw at you, and this, unexpected trauma can come your way. Like we don't have the tool set to deal with certain things. So I really want to pause here because I think this is really, really important. Because not just like the human race as a group of people, but I think entrepreneurs even more, there's a stigmatism around therapists, you know, like almost like it's a weakness to talk to somebody or to seek out help at that level. And I would beg and argue and plead to almost be like, do it sooner rather than later. But I really feel like you have some incredible insights like to share from your personal experience with that and the message that you are working to get out to the masses.
Yeah, I think I completely agree that it's something that people stigmatize. Experiencing it, one, and then seeking out help is another. Experiencing it, I felt it for so long until this current mission of mine. I say that it's like I was terrified that why would someone want to date a broken person, be friends with a broken person, and to hire a broken person. Like if people knew all of this stuff about me, is how I saw myself as broken, until I realized that it wasn't, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But seeking out help for it could have helped me sooner. It really could have. And as someone that wanted to become a therapist, it was still hard for me. So I'm sure with any person that's listening that goes through this, it's even harder. And I'm in this world, in this mental health world, and my family's in it. And it was so hard to seek out. But when I did, it changed everything. And it's not just going though, it's putting in the work for it. And that can be the hardest part is we've talked about this before, you and I have, Cassie, but allowing yourself to feel it, because you go through emotions when you go to therapy or you seek out these self-help tools. And so that's where it becomes like a fine line where you have to decide, is this enough? Do I want to feel like this all the time? And will I not get myself help because of that?
Yeah, that's such a really, really important point. And I didn't want to gloss over it because, you know, for those of you listening, like I did an interview with Ayelet before this interview for her podcast. And, you know, I'm still recovering emotionally a little bit from it, but I did not go through therapy. And I think that's a stark contrast because it's been 8 years since Adam's diagnosis. And I think around the 5th year is where I sort of started finding my stride. Like within the last 3 years, I feel like my business sort of stood in for therapy and my personal development. And thank God, Jorge Vasquez coming into my path. Like, I don't even know where I would be. And he just happens to have the skill sets and everything that like, there was more time spent, you know, crying and working through tons of baggage that I was carrying with me through not only those 8 years, but like things that I haven't even dealt with before that I didn't even realize. And I think people, and again, entrepreneurs, like we tend to just kind of package it up, throw it over our backs and just keep going because we're too stubborn to stop and realize, or not even that, not that we don't realize that there's help, but asking for help is really, really hard. And I think that is the bridge that has to be crossed when you get into working with someone on the therapist level. But I look back now, knowing what I know now, and think, holy smokes, like how much could I have grown, or how much could I have shortcutted the understanding? Because I had to learn the hard way to process through my emotions. Like it wasn't like Adam's diagnosis, I know how to deal with this stress. Like it was not something that I had come to me naturally. And it's just like any other specialty, you know, these therapists, they're trained to help us understand and work through these emotions. And I just cannot emphasize it enough to seek out help faster than trying to deal with it on your own.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be like a traditional therapy route. There are other ways that therapists are helping too. But those other people in finding those people to help you through your emotions that have that can expedite the process of going through all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that's a big part of your mission. And so you had mentioned shifting from the broken mindset. And I don't know if you want to get into that now, or if you want to kind of explain a little bit of where your paradigm shift was, like from coming through eyes on the prize, going to college, wanting to be a therapist, and then sort of like a little fork in the road of an opportunity, not only an opportunity, but like sort of like your chance to step into a bigger purpose. So you choose which way we're going to go.
I'll go there first. Cause that leads me into like how I view myself now. So I'm 1 year into my master's degree. It's a 2-year program. And that summer, but right before, I attended Unlock the Secrets, which Cassie happened to be at, which is where I met her. And I was like so not into this whole business. I went because like my dad was in this and I just went, whatever, thought he was in a cult, all that good stuff. The hotel had a lazy river. So that's why I went. It was a free trip to Denver and I was kind of bored because it was summer in between classes. But I'm like, people would ask me, I get there and people are like, oh, what business are you in? And I'm like, oh, I'm studying to be a therapist. I'm not in business. I go to school for social work where I am studying to be a therapist. And I was talking to someone when I was there, Ryan Lee, and he asked me what I did and I told him. And then I asked him what he did. And he explained what he does. And he said, but I'm here with my daughter who was with him. She's 12. And we'd really like to do something to help kids with anxiety and depression. And my anxiety and depression wasn't something I had ever shared publicly. Only my very close friends and family knew, like very, very close friends and family. And I don't know why I said this, but I looked at him and I said, that's so amazing. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for the last 10 years of my life. So that would help so many people. And he looked down at his daughter and he said, see, you're not alone. And there was my moment. Like, I don't know what it was. Like it was fate that had just happened. It was came out of my mouth and it was like divine intervention that happened in that time and place. Because then I was in this conference where I was able to listen to someone speak for 3 days about if you have a message, you can get this out into the world. It doesn't need to just stay inside of you. And in traditional therapy, you're taught really not to self-disclose. It's just not. Some therapists do, some therapists don't. You make your choice, but you don't use your own things that you've really been through for the other person. And this was like my shift in perspective. And I left this conference after 3 days being like, I want this to be my mission in life. Like, I went through all of this for a reason. So I start the journey and I was told to get a podcast first because you need a platform to speak on. So I go to start this podcast and I'm launching quickly. Like, I'm doing all this. Like, I'm at this mission. And at first I came home was like, I want to quit school and go entrepreneur. And my mom was like, heck no, this isn't happening.
I do love your parents for that. They were like, no, you're going to finish.
They were like, your mission and your schooling, they go together. They go together. So it'll only help you. And I'm like, all right, I'll give school a shot for another year. And I start this podcasting journey and my podcast hadn't launched yet. And the night before my podcast launched, probably a few weeks right after the conference, My podcast coach, who's also Cassie's, called me and he was like, you need to go Facebook Live. And I said, why? And he said, well, you need to promote your podcast. And I for some reason thought I could get away with this whole entrepreneurial journey without like posting on my social media, without my like friends and my family seeing it. And he goes, you need to go Facebook Live and talk about it. And I was like, I can't go Facebook Live. Like, this is where my friends and my family are. Like, they cannot all know what I'm going through, like that I go through this, because like I said before, my thought process was like, who is going to want to date a broken person, be friends with friends with a broken person, want to hire a broken person? And then I was like, okay, like, but this is why I'm starting this podcast, is to get the shame away around this. But still, this fear was inside of me, like gnawed in my throat. Like I could not bring myself to do it. And Parker said something to me. He said, what if this changes 100 people's lives? And then that's where the fear stopped. And it stopped becoming about me. And it started becoming about the people that I could impact.
Yeah.
Which is where it started from in the first place. But when you realize the reality of putting yourself out there like that, really scary. And it didn't set in as a reality until that happened. But I moved past that fear and I did it. And I continued to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's where that went.
I love it. I love hearing the journey, and I'm so thankful that you get to share it and everyone gets to experience it. Cause I remember our chats back and forth, before the podcast was launching, because, you know, you had your ebook that was launching in this toolkit, and it's just, you know, courage is defined of being present in that fear, but doing it anyway. And you boldly stepped up and you did it anyway. And I just remember back our conversation where it was talking about, you know, letting people feel safe in their own skin, and realizing that it's not something that they have to apologize for or hide from or shield from the world, that would actually be counterintuitive in helping them live fully, not only their purpose, but just a healthy life. And that you are shining the light on that, and fully stepping up and being the first one to really speak up and be like, I can encourage you to step back into the light because I am doing it and I am going to walk beside you. And that, I think, was just the most empowering and encouraging thing, because you're leading a whole generation, and you're helping them not feel guilty or like something's wrong with them, or, you know, that they have to detach or withdraw from society. Like this is a part of who they are, just like you and I, like blonde hair, brown eyes, blue eyes, like it's part of their DNA and who they are. And you can't hide from that. And the minute that the minute that you give someone the freedom to accept that and live there, I feel like you just unlocked freedom for them.
It breaks the chains around you when you're able to show up and be seen as you, and not as this perfect person, because like we all know everyone goes through trauma and they go through anxiety and depression, and they experience this, but what happens when we feel like we can't be seen for that? And that's where this mission is. It's like, it is okay. It does things for you. Like depression for me allows me to be an empath. And I'm so much more empathic because of it. And anxiety lets me think faster, and it does things for you. And it's about realizing that it does, and it being okay with who you are, because it gives you all of these gifts that you didn't know you had. And we are in we're in a shame storm, as Brené Brown likes to say, of especially in social media. Like you show, which you just said on my interview, like you show your highlight reel and you only show the good things. but that's not who you are. And so when you're entering into these friendships and relationships, if you're not showing up for who you authentically are and you're only showing up for your really pretty picture on Instagram, what's the point? What's the point of that if you're not going to show who you truly are?
Right. And I really feel like that sort of mindset does more harm for those who are suffering with anxiety or depression than good. Because the minute that they think that they're only going to be loved or accepted or approved is by being that picture perfect of anything that someone outside of themselves defines, they're setting themselves up to lose, like we all are. None of us can uphold that perfect image of whatever society throws at us. But the minute that you say, it's okay to be open and to be vulnerable and to have these, myriad of emotions. I didn't share I didn't share this with you in our interview, but I used to really have a problem with being as sensitive as I was. And, you mentioned and recognized being an empath. I didn't even know what an empath was till a few years ago. And I read an article. It was an article about the narcissist and an empath. And I was like my mind was blown. I'm like, I'm an empath. Like, this explains so much. But because I didn't have the knowledge or understanding of what I was at my core, I thought I was broken. I was constantly apologizing for being sensitive, for responding emotionally to certain things, or to have a higher sense of emotion around things. And it honestly is one of my greatest superpowers.
It's your superpower. You're feeling like it allows you. I know that from being coached by you, it is your superpower. It allows you to feel what I'm feeling. And like, that could not happen without you being who you are at your core and showing up authentically who you are every single day for that.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love most, is because that age that you are leading is one of the most vulnerable ages, where you're already naturally questioning everything. You're already wondering what your role in society is, what my path is. Some are wondering what their mission is in life, but others are probably just wondering how they're going to put food on the table, how they're going to live a life and be happy and fulfilled. And I think to have such a beacon of hope that you're out here leading the way and letting them know, like, you don't have to go through this alone. And the quicker that you realize this, like, we're stronger together and we can band and we can talk about this, and you can shortcut that journey for them and experiencing and realizing that a lot of what we have when we think we're broken is actually that superpower that's just coming into life.
Yeah. And we all have that ability. And it's just this age group, like 18 to 29, we're born into this generation where I have a friend that, like, you look at him and he's perfect. Like, he seems from he had a perfect college life, was the sweetheart of our sorority, like had a beautiful girlfriend, has a killer job, has amazing friends, goes out all the time. But texts me being like, do you think anyone knew last night at the party that, like, I had anxiety, that I was, like, so anxious? And I was like, this is where it comes from. Like, there is so much shame around it, like, that he doesn't want to share, when in the rest of the world he is so comfortable with who he is. And I'm just like, if you would just let people see you for that, like, it would make people love you more, because you don't want to be perfect. Like, perfect isn't a thing. And so allowing yourself to be seen is, like, opens up a world for you. And I think that's where it took the chains off of me too, as much as it helps other people to overcome their own anxiety and depression and their struggles. It took my chains off of me from being afraid of my own story and living in fear of showing up like that. Where now, at least, like, I put it on the table like it is, and I'm going to show up with who I am. And there's no hindsight. It's not, this lesson was learned for me when I came out of a relationship. This was even a little bit over a year ago. I was still in graduate school. like my first year. And we were dating, this guy and I were dating for about 3 months, and he came out, he ended the relationship, and he was like, I feel like you don't even have emotions. And I like looked at myself in the mirror after hearing that, and I go, if this person was with me for 3 months and he doesn't think I have any emotions, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of being in a relationship, being in a friendship, if you're not being seen? And that was like a huge realization for me, that I need to show up.
Yeah.
Not only for myself, but for others too.
Oh, that was probably a huge internal conversation that you had, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's a growth point. That's a huge growth point. So talk to us about now that you're here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the future look like? Where are you going?
So, you know what? It's so crazy. I had the future all planned out. Like at 20, I'd graduate at 23 from graduate school, which I'll still do. And then I'll open up my private practice by this time. And now I'm on this entrepreneurial journey. And it's so amazing because I learn all the time, and it changes. But right now, so I have my ebook out, my toolbox, which is like all of the tools in one to help people with anxiety. And I am currently launching my Facebook group to give people this safe space. And in the future, it's so much larger. It's a movement of people. Like, this isn't just about a product. This isn't about the next thing. It's about leading a larger movement of people to be able to be vulnerable, to thrive beyond. And that's what it is. It's not just anxiety. It's not just depression. It's literally thriving beyond that. But it starts with getting past that point of where your fear and your shame come from, which a lot of it is mental health, and that allows you to step into the person you're meant to become. So I am like, my goal in life is just to help as many people as possible to be able to do that, to move through it, to move past it, and then to step into that. And on that entrepreneurial journey, I mean, it's going to change. Right now it's coaching, and it's about to be group coaching too, which will launch in a little bit, with some help. But it is just a movement of people that are hopefully going to be stepping into who they are meant to become, because the world is full of so many like beautiful people that have so much they can give and are just being held back by these stories. So that's where this is going.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I know before we wrap up and leave this episode and close everything out, if there's anyone listening, I feel like the best service that we could give them almost is twofold. Because I know before we started this episode, I shared with you in high school, we had a friend of ours who committed suicide. And it was one of those things that just, it was almost just incomprehensible. Like, how could this happen? We were in a small town. He's always, full of joy, laughing, making jokes. And like, we didn't know, like, and we've had a friend who had, a situation where, thank goodness, you were able to pick up certain signs. Like, so I feel like, what can we be aware of, and to increase our awareness of those we love, or just maybe those what we come across in life? Like, can we look out for some things, or can we serve in a different way? Can we contribute in a way that we're maybe not aware of right now, is one. And then on the other side of that, if you're someone who is suffering like this, but you are sort of trying to navigate it on your own, like, what advice would you have for each one of those scenarios?
Yeah. So the first one, I mean, what you shared is, it's really hard, and the problem is it's really common, is that you don't see it coming a lot of the time. But I think it's so important that we look at the world and we look at each person with the understanding that each person is going through something. Like, if you think someone's being so mean and rude and like you just want to not like them, they're most likely going through something probably pretty terrible, which is causing them to act in a certain way and closed off. And I've been guilty of that before, so I know. So if you treat each person like there is something going on and to give them the benefit of the doubt, that is a huge part, as well as making sure that you're talking to your friends about this stuff. Like, it's so good to talk about feelings, even though it's not something like fun that we always want to do with our friends, but just so that they know that you're always there is so important. And I've had to call friends' parents before, after scary things have happened on multiple times, and making the call was scary too. Thinking that they're going to hate you forever is the scariest part of it. And I have been through this multiple times. In my senior year of college was one of the scariest when I went through this with one of my best friends. And if you have to make that call, know that you are doing the right thing. So to also be aware of that it's okay to bring other people in when you don't know what to do. So I think that's a huge part. And then if you're the one struggling right now and you're going through this on your own, it's almost impossible to go through it on your own and to make it out okay. And it comes from reaching out. And it doesn't have to be on social media or to even a Facebook group. It can be to a close friend or family member or someone else, or a therapist, someone who isn't in that immediate circle. But one person is all it takes to reach out. It's just that one person. And like, it took a really, really long time for me to start sharing so publicly and openly. Like, first it took just telling my mom, then it took telling my mom and my dad, then it was like my close friends, then it was my close friends and family, and then it was this. Like, this has evolved over years of time of sitting with it. So it's where you feel the safest, just one person. And I promise you, as hard as it is to share, you won't regret it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those last little tips with us. And just to recap for everybody, podcast is get out of bed, get out of your head. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then by the time this drops, the Facebook group should be it's launched.
Yeah. It's live.
So, and that is Thrive Beyond Anxiety. And I will preface this by saying it is only for those who are living with anxiety. It is a support group.
Or depression.
Yes, anxiety or depression. So it's a support group, like specifically for those like to have a safe zone. And I love your rules. And, we're here to rally and lift up, not to trigger or incite or, make excuses. We are stepping into our purpose and lifting each other as we go. So it's awesome. If you have or know anyone or you yourself need to be there, show up and just get to know Ayelet on such another level. She's amazing. And then of course the Anxiety Secrets Toolbox, where can they get that?
They can get that at www.anxietysecretstoolbox.com.
Oh gosh, how simple is that?
Those tools, so simple. And those tools truly, like, it's everything I've learned to cope into one, where it gives you like the background and the tools and the workbook to do it. So it's helped me every day. It certainly has.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope you've received value, encouragement, and exactly what you need to help keep you in momentum to grow and impact the world around you. Big or small, we all make a difference. Thanks also for subscribing, downloading, and leaving a review. This helps us reach others who need this message in their life. If you know anyone who would benefit from this podcast, please share so you and I can help more people boldly step into purpose. It is my heart's mission to help and encourage others. My internal belief that a rising tide lifts all ships. So much of what we talk about on the podcast is leading with value and building relationships through service. So we've created a collection of resources for you to continue growing, whether you are just getting started or ready to scale your business. Visit amplifymyimpact.com for show notes, downloads, programs, and more information about how to directly work with our team to amplify your impact and change the world.